Hey folks, it's Shane from Performance EV. Today we're going to try and start building our battery box. Hey folks, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you new to this channel, this is my project to put a Nissan Leaf motor into a Porsche 911. Now, some of you might ask why, because I want to see if it'll work. So we've spent the last few weeks trying to get some of the wiring and stuff sorted on the car, so it's basically now more or less just turnkey, get in, turn the key, and I can drive the car. Still need to organize the gearbox. I'm having to do that just by a little dial, but yeah, it's getting there. So we've got that done, and I want to turn my attention back to the battery box. So I've been doing a lot of thinking and measuring and all that sort of stuff over the last few weeks, and I've now decided how I'm going to build the box. I'll take you into that in a bit, but yeah, just wanted to kind of bring you along for the journey. So let's get to it. So I ended up getting myself into a bit of a kind of spiral of analysis and design with the battery box. I was looking at all sorts of different permutations for how I could arrange the battery. I'll show you some of the video. I won't go into depth, but it got a bit nuts, went a bit off the rails. And I was, worrying a lot about the weight distribution and how it matched what Porsche had done. And I think all those points are still really valid, but I really had to ask myself, are they valid right now? For those of you that have watched this channel for a while, or have gone back, maybe only started watching recently, but gone back and watched a lot of the other videos, my goal is to get this car on the road. And I want to do it, I want to create a safe working car that I can gradually increase the power on and hopefully hit the power figures of the Porsche. But it doesn't have to be perfect when it hits the road the first time. I just want to get it on the road and get a chance to drive it and enjoy driving it. And the more and more complicated I made the battery box, the more and more things I was going to have to fabricate, both inside it to get things laid out properly, but also in terms of additional mountings or maybe remote sections of the battery in other parts of the car. And those may still feature, but they are going to take me a lot longer to do it than trying to keep things simple. So what I've decided to go for is just a double stack of 12 cells. So the same as the rear end of the Leaf box, just double in height. It will mean there's a few kilos more right at the back than the way Porsche had it, but it's not actually that much. It's probably bringing the car maybe a little bit closer to the weight at the back that something like the 911 Turbo or something has. So it's not totally outside the realms of reality with this car. I'm sure the handling won't be 100% perfect, but I think it'll be a while before I get to the point where it becomes a challenge or where it starts to cause problems. And by then, hopefully, I'll have additional battery cells to boost the pack voltage so I can boost the power and actually hit those Porsche figures. And then I'll want to look at that new expanded pack in a holistic manner and find the different spots around the car that it makes sense to place it. But I think at the moment, if I was to start doing that, I'd end up with just like 2 or 3 battery modules randomly placed somewhere around the car and a ton of extra wiring just to accommodate 25 kilos, which just didn't make sense to me. So we're going with the double stack. It's not going to be the final iteration, but it'll get us on the road fastest, and that's the key thing for me at the moment. It also allows me to build something that I'm pretty comfortable will work and be safe and be secure, and that I can go and I can take the car to get its MOT, or if when I try and register it, the DVLA tell me I have to go and get it inspected or something, that I can be confident that wiring's to a minimum, and all wiring that is there is to spec. So they'll give me the go ahead to get this car out on the road. But yeah, let's get into building it. Okay, so that's that removed. I did go through the lower metal a couple times and created a few speed holes, but I'm gonna be doing so many other things with this frame. I'm not too worried about that. You know, at worst I'll just patch them up. That's what welders are for. So now I think we'll just start getting a cut done. And then see what shape we get and go from there. Okay, I've done some more measuring, and while it's a decent fit, I'm a little bit too long at the front here. So I think what we're going to have to do, the only real option, is to just go, for the moment, it might not be my final thing, but I'm just going to go for a double row of batteries, so one stacked on top of the other in the space here. And then just go far enough forward here to be able to make a frame, and then call it. So I need to mock in a couple of batteries, put in a few extra items, see how much space I need just for things like the bus bars and everything, and then we'll figure out what space we need for a frame. So this is essentially a mock-up of what I'm thinking with the battery pack. So we've got double stacked. I know that's probably going to mean a couple of kilos more right at the back than I'd wanted, but it's still within the kind of the depth of the engine, and it's not much more in terms of height. Doesn't go any further out width-wise, doesn't hang out the back, which I think is more important than the height of the center of gravity. You know, a higher center of gravity might mean a bit more body roll, but more weight at the back means you end up with more kind of force swinging from side to side that can pull the car around, so I don't want that. So I'm going to go with this. I think I need to now measure up everything and I guess essentially mock it up inside the Porsche, see how it fits. But what we're going with is obviously the batteries in the space that they were originally designed to go in, but stacked double. So I'll probably need to do a little bit of reinforcing with the original brackets to make sure they can hold the extra height. And you know, there's a reinforcing bar underneath here that I'll just leave in place, and let that take any of the excess weight. The weight's actually spread quite evenly. It goes onto this bar here, it goes onto this section here, so it's spread throughout the pack, so it shouldn't, you know, cause any damage to this piece itself. So the plan is to basically hang it from the Porsche. So I've got an original Porsche engine mount or engine frame. So this would normally go onto the stock engine mounts, but I'm planning to get rid of those because I actually want this hard mounted. I don't want it kind of hanging from a soft mount, you know, that's designed to take vibration, because there shouldn't be any vibration actually going through this. This is a part of the car. It's a solid piece. I'll put some bushings in place, obviously, just to make sure nothing causes any damage or rubs, but it won't need too much other weight. So basically we're going to bolt this to hopefully the far back of the box. There's a couple of solid mounting points there, so I'll create a little frame that'll go between the two, and that should work. Then this will not actually take any weight. There won't be any weight going through this rear frame. This is just to create the box section that will protect all this and provide us with a platform that we can put weight on for hopefully things like the inverter, assuming they still fit. And then we've got at the front, we're going to have, you know, an upright either side. These will bear weight, so they'll go up, and I'll have a plate that'll go between them and a mount that I'm going to build on the inside of the frame rail in the Porsche. So that'll have to kind of slot in and be bolted on both sides, and that should then hold this solid. And then I'm going to run a solid piece straight through the middle here, just to give us a bit more rigidity, a bit more purchase. And I'll probably use that to supplement the engine mounts that I have at the moment, just to make sure they're a bit stronger and able to take the weight a little bit better. So yeah, that's where we're going. I'm going to go take lots of measurements of this and figure out, you know, exactly how this should fit. Do I need to move things forward or back any bit? If I do have this hanging at the back, where does the mount need to be on the inside of the Porsche? And we'll take it from there. And if that, assuming that everything seems to fit, what we'll do is we'll try and build it out with just kind of mocked up batteries at the moment, then empty it out, offer it up to the car, and see how we go. Okay, so I think we've got the formings of a plan here. So this is kind of going to be our front corner. We're going to run another piece of steel rectangular box section along here as well, to create kind of a nice stable perimeter. And then it will also be held together at the top, but probably from behind, just to give us a little bit of a recess in which the motor can operate. So the motor itself is basically going to more or less come into this space, probably even into the area in between the two uprights, which will make it all nestle quite nicely together. And then we've got kind of a box section for the back, but much narrower, which is really just for the rigidity of the overall structure. We're not going to mount anything from it. and then kind of at the very back we're going to use an adjusted standard Porsche engine mount to give us a nice easy bolt-on option for securing it at the back.
Alright, so I think we're ready for the next phase once the zinc primer dries, and that will be basically to start trying to weld the extra bits onto this. So I've got a little bit more measuring to do just to make sure things are in exactly the right place. So I'll use some of the brackets and that are there, but yeah, I think we're ready to move on to building, get off destruction and onto construction. I'm going to get out of here because there's all sorts of dust and paint and stuff in the air, and I really want to get this mask off.
Alright, we've got our two side pieces cut to size. Now we just want to get them to fit. So basically it's in here that they need to go. So I just need to kind of grind a little angle out to make sure they sit in there properly. Okay, just to show you what we've got. So we've cut a bunch of different angles on this to make sure it fits up to the floor properly. And Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. There's a slight gap down here that won't necessarily weld the best. We're going to put a cover plate over this anyway, and I'm just going to extend that on probably right over to where we'll have the cross piece as well. So that should, once welded in place, mean it's a really structurally sound corner. So now we just need to repeat the same on the other side. You know the way they say measure twice, cut once? Should have taken that advice. I missed a 10, or I added a 10 to my measured amount. All right, back to the drawing board. We'll get this cut again. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that actually. So what I'm going to do is just get the welder out, do some small tacks at the lower edges of these, then take them off the battery tray, bash them into place, get them all perfectly aligned, and tack up a bit further, and then try and put them back in place. So we've hit a bit of a roadblock on this. I thought maybe it was going a little bit too smoothly. Should have seen it coming. You know, we're in the middle of a bit of a lockdown here in the UK. It's gradually getting less, but a lot of small suppliers are not currently operating, which has meant I've found it anyway, a little bit difficult to get small quantities of metal, you know, the stuff I need for this project. And so once I'd figured out kind of what my basic plan was with this battery box, I went to order some rectangular box section, and the only stuff I could get was galvanized. Now, galvanized steel is great from a rust prevention perspective, but when it comes to welding, it poses challenges. So it's got a thick layer of zinc on it, and basically that acts as an impurity when it comes to doing the weld, so it has to be burnt off in order to be able to get a good weld. But unfortunately, in burning off, it kind of turns into a vapor, which is actually not good for you. So I do have a good mask for that, so don't worry about that. But it also kind of goes out through the weld puddle, which means, I did some tests with some of the small cutoff bits, and I was getting absolutely no penetration, tons of porosity in the welds. It's terrible. It is possible to weld galvanized steel, but from what I've tried with my little welder, I've tried a range of different wire speeds, settings, wire sizes, everything. I just can't get a clean solid weld with this. So basically welding this particular metal into this frame is not going to be an option, which is, it's a bit of a pain. And I've spent the last day and a half trying to come up with different ways I can just work around this and make it happen. I started making different plates of metal and kind of little angled pieces that I'd be able to weld together to make some brackets and that, but as I started to work through trying to build those out, I just wasn't happy with where I'd be able to get things to connect. I'd end up having to use a lot of bolts and stuff, and how am I going to bolt along here unless I go the whole way through the steel, which just didn't seem sensible. So what I've decided to do is basically pause this part of the build until I can get just some mild, decent thickness, mild steel, the right type that I know I can weld, and I'll be able to basically turn this front section between the kind of the box and this steel into like a single solid hunk of metal, because this is going to have a lot of weight in it, and if if this part of the upright is solidly mounted to the car and there's flex here, it's going to just try and tear something apart. So I need it to be really solid. So I'm gonna just wait until I can get some mild steel, as I say, that I can weld. I've found some online. I've ordered it. I've no idea when it'll turn up. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see on that one. But I've learned a fair bit in doing all this. I know what cuts I need to make. I know what lengths I need to cut things. So it won't be too bad once I get replacement steel to recreate this and then just hopefully weld it in place. So that wasn't quite how I was hoping the last few days would go. I ended up putting quite a lot of effort into the kind of measuring, designing the cuts, cutting the metal, and then finding that what I'd done I can't use. I don't have the right equipment to weld galvanized steel, so I just need to, I guess, accept that and move on, which I've done. I've got some new steel on order. We'll go and make those same cuts again once that turns up, and then weld it into place. I kind of know this space much better now, so it'll hopefully go a fair bit quicker once we do get it. So yeah, it's quite exciting though, even just to kind of mock up a few of the batteries into the pack and see how it was kind of going to be stacked, and how compact it was going to be. So I'm really excited to actually get it built, and hopefully it won't take too long for the metal to get here, and I'll be able to do this at some point over the next few weeks. And I hope that you guys will enjoy, will join me for that. I hope you've enjoyed my attempt in this episode, and I hope that you'll join me for the next one. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please like, share, subscribe. Comments are always welcome, really appreciated. But till next time, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.